This is the regular town council meeting, Town of Cave Creek, Arizona, for Monday, October 3rd, 2022. Could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember McGuire,
Present.
Councilmember Monachino,
Here.
Councilmember Morris,
Here.
Councilmember Royer, here, Councilmember Silva,
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith,
Here.
and Mayor Bunch.
Okay.
Not.
We will, the council will be going into executive session. I'll read what those items are. Item 1, council discussion, consultation, direction to, and legal advice from the town attorney pursuant to ARS section 38-431.03 paren A, N paren 3, N paren, and paren 4, N paren, regarding potential water service contract with the owner of APN 211-52-014G in Desert Hills as a transition project under the 2021 Water Resource Policy. Item number 2 will be consultation discussion, consultation, direction to and legal advice from the town attorney pursuant to ARS section 38-4103A 3 and 4 regarding the potential transfer of existing Cave Creek water accounts on 72nd Street to Carefree Water Company as part of the 2021 settlement agreement to separate the water systems at the municipal boundary. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second. Executive session.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Oh, good. Thank
I
you.
didn't hear her.
Welcome back to the council meeting. Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Cosman, would you please do that for us?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's see, public announcements. I'll make one public announcement. That is, the mayor is obviously not here tonight. And therefore, I, as the vice mayor, for the first time, and certainly the last time, will be acting as the presider today. That's my public announcement. Do we have a call to the public person?
I have no members wishing to speak.
Does Carrie have any announcements?
No,
No speaking?
no one. Okay. Ma'am, Ms. Town Manager, having been away for what?
2
4
whole
weeks.
weeks, 2
Oh,
whole
my.
weeks. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May you have your report?
I do. Obviously, you can see by the weather outside, the temperatures are going down. Let's hope they stay below 100, and that means fall is here and activities are starting to pick up. On October 12th, the museum will be getting their local landmark recognition and the plaque, and they are going to be putting on an event at the museum. I'll get the time. We'll get some additional details out to the public and on our calendar on the website. On Saturday, October 15th, the Dark Skies event will be held again out at the parking lot at Spur Cross Recreation Area, and that begins at 6:30 p.m. It's a great event and has been well attended in the past. So join us out there. And then Saturday, October 22nd, beginning at 11 a.m. is the 75th anniversary event at the American Legion. So there's a lot of things going on in October, and it'll pick up with the nicer weather as we get into the holidays. So just wanted to, and the rest, I'll have to report next time when I figure out what's going on around here.
Pardon?
Could I ask Carrie a question?
Of course.
Is that all right?
Sure.
You know, while you were gone, there was a tragic death at Sport Park.
That's correct, yes. Yes.
On behalf of this entire council, we send our condolences to the family.
Mhm.
I'm wondering, are we going to work with Maricopa County in any way to help improve situations out there for lost hikers?
We had an initial conversation with the park director, along with Jim Ford and myself, about the activities and the safety out there, particularly related to heat. But this was after the first incident of just a few weeks ago. And sadly, while I was gone, there was another incident, and we will follow up with him. But what we've been working on in the meantime is much better signage at not just at the entrance, but throughout the trails themselves. So we've been looking at suggestions for better, clear language on the signs and how the signs are that we'll take back to the county. And they've already offered to put up additional signage, warning people. The county actually looked at, we inquired whether or not we could close the park during extreme heat days. And they went through that process with the County Board of Supervisors and the park staff, and we're not in favor of doing that because it affects it's a policy that would affect all of their parks. They've got a lot of entrances and there wasn't really a way to enforce it. So we have some other suggestions for them and for the town itself, including signage for Black Mountain Trail and things like that we want to bring forward. So that's where we're working at. And that's where we left it just a few weeks ago.
Well, it's obvious that something needs to improve.
Mhm, mhm. We agree. And we think that there are steps that we can take to make it better. And
Thank you for bringing that up. I was remiss in not doing so, since I'm not really accustomed to doing this. So we'll move to the consent agenda. First item on the consent agenda, approval of the September 13, 2022 special council session, water forum minutes. And item 2, approval of the September 19, 2022 regular council meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
So move. Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, we'll move to the general agenda items. First item, council discussion on amending Cave Creek Town Code, Chapter 90.14A1. Town Marshal?
Mr. Acting Mayor, Council. Our office was contacted by a resident who has had some continuous problems with one of his neighbors walking their dogs, which is not on a leash. The current leash law or anti-leash law in Cave Creek is covered under Chapter 90.14A1. Dogs may not be permitted at large in any area of the town. Each dog shall be confined to the owner's property. Here's the key phrase. Or when off the owner's property, should either be secured by a leash or directly under the owner's immediate control by voice command and within sight of the owner at all times. The resident decided to propose an amendment to that. that basically all dogs must be leashed when walking on public roads, public streets, public rights of ways, or easements open to the public. Excuse me, the attorney and town manager felt that we should put this to the council and see if the council wished to perhaps look at a change to the town code. Again, it's chapter 90, 14, A1. You haven't answered any questions.
Acting mayor. I have a question.
Oh, former vice mayor.
What is your recommendation and or opinion of adding that one sentence to that paragraph?
I believe it's a double-edged sword, mayor, vice mayor, former vice mayor, council members. Cave Creek is still a rural environment. This is by no means an epidemic. We're not receiving, well, truthfully be told, more than 3 or 4 calls a year of dogs that are not on a leash. We've spoken, or I've personally spoken to this individual's neighbor. I've asked him to just avoid that particular neighbor's house. But for some reason, I guess that hasn't happened. Having a dog under voice control is a exceedingly tough standard to enforce. I'm not going to be present when these types of things happen. Video isn't showing whether or not that person's dog walked away for 3 feet. He was called immediately back because for some reason we just never get the entire stream. Do we change a law because it affects very few residents, or do we change a law because it affects a whole town? I'm just a marshal. I don't get to decide that. You guys get paid big bucks to decide that.
When we have big events in town, such as Bike Week, such as the rodeo parade and other such events, have you gotten any calls for dogs not being on a leash and causing a problem in the crowd that is along Cave Creek Road and our town core?
Seldom do we have problems with dogs being off leash. However, we do get the occasional mountain bike rider that'll be on one of our trails. Someone will be walking the trail with their dog. The dog becomes startled and it will let out a bark or something, and they are upset that the dog's not on a leash. So that has occurred. I'm not going to say we don't ever get complaints of dogs being off of their leashes, but it's not an everyday occurrence by any means in Cave Creek.
That brings up a question. Is a trail in Spur Cross, is that considered an easement open to the public? Or is a trail an easement, or can you, I would interpret that meaning you can still have dogs not on a leash on a trail in Spur Cross?
I would tend to disagree, but thank heavens we have legal counsel sitting beside me.
Yes.
I defer to the man with a firearm, and yes, it would be an easement. Yes, yes.
So you would be
The rule
required to have
is-
your dog on leash
Okay.
if
Yeah.
you were to make this change on the trail.
In Spur Cross, the county procedure is dogs are supposed to be on a leash in
Right.
Spur Cross.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate the question.
Councilmember McGuire.
Have you discussed this with the trails coordinator with Bambi?
No, I have not. The incidents that are occurring for this particular individual are on a town roadway or in front of the town roadway. The neighbor walks his dog on the cul-de-sac, very low traffic in that area, but it just happens to infuriate a particular resident.
There's,
Mr. Mayor, if I could clarify, this item was put on this particular agenda because we were given a range of dates when the resident would be available to plead his, concerns and the case. And I was informed when I returned that he was unable to attend this meeting.
Okay,
Vice Mayor.
Councilmember Monachino.
This is a discussion item only.
Right.
What happens after this? Do we have some agreement that this is a good idea? It's not a good idea? What happens?
Mayor, council member, usually when we have a discussion item, there would be some direction to the staff, if any. If there's no direction, we would not go forward with drafting any ordinance. But the intent was to give the resident who had these multiple incidents an opportunity to speak because they've been going on for how long?
4 years by his accord.
Yeah.
But the resident is
then
not
would-
here.
Would a
And
motion
we were
be
given
appropriate?
dates when he would be
Uh,
available, so we put it on this meeting and he was not.
A motion to do something other than ask staff to develop some ideas on this and put something that would be in the subsequent agenda?
That wouldn't be my motion.
No.
No, well,
There wouldn't be a
We're-
motion. Collectively, you would give us direction. We would listen to
yeah,
you.
we're not looking for a motion. We're looking for what might be a consensus. If we think it's a good idea to move forward with this, then we tell staff this should be considered, put together something, and then it'll be on a future agenda.
I think that this is an excellent suggestion. It's a question of safety. And let's take the safety step now rather than wait until something happens.
I have great concerns about changing a town ordinance in response to one particular situation. And if, given that the individual is not here, we're not getting a full picture. And I don't think it would be appropriate us to give any direction to staff without having a better idea of what the situation is and what the person who's affected wants to happen. And also, I think it's very important that this be discussed with the Trails Coordinator, because this has to do with the trails.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris?
Well, Councilman McGuire is right on target. We don't even know there's a problem. There's no testimony here about a problem. There's no dogs running loose. I live in that area. There's no dogs. The counties tend to keep people take control of their dogs. We can't be making code changes for one person or get in the middle of a neighbor fight. And that strikes me this way. So number one is staff's got to have a recommendation. Just throwing it on us. You need to determine whether this is a public safety issue and come to council with a definitive recommendation rather than, hey, we're passing the buck on to council. So this has a lot of problems. We have no testimony here tonight. The individual's not here. So this really is kind of a misuse of resources, in my view, and ought to be put off until we can let's deal with it or not deal with it. But just throwing it out there and talking about it, I just don't see the
Councilmember Wright?
inefficient.
Thank you.
I guess what I would like to know is what are the policies of other municipalities? They have leash laws, like you're suggesting. In other words, best practices. I find it to be relevant. I walk on trails. I don't like it when dogs are not on leashes, and it happens. It's not like it never happens. So I can postpone this until we hear from the gentleman who really directly has the problem, but I'd like to know what other municipalities do. Because that's a good way to determine if we should follow suit.
Most larger municipalities have leash laws. They do.
Well, I like the suggestion, but I would caution that we should look at municipalities that have livestock, horses allowed in their zoning category. Secondly, they have trails within their community, dedicated trails for horseback riding. I've seen a lot of riders on our trails that have a dog with them, and they're certainly not on a leash. So we are a rural equestrian, high Sonoran desert community, and even though, let's say, Scottsdale or Phoenix has a leash law, it's a good idea to check, but I would not want to be put in that category given our way of life here.
Okay, and there are no other comments?
We had our discussion.
There is public comment, Mr.
Well, I think our consensus is we think there might be a worthy issue to go a little further on this, but we're not ready for it.
Do we,
So I think there'd be what,
do we have anyone from the public that wants to speak on this?
well, we
You have public comment.
Yeah, which says
Yeah, is
public
there any-
comment.
We have no speakers.
Pardon?
There is no public comment.
Okay.
or
Oh,
There's
thank
no
you.
one wishing to speak.
oh, why don't we
Thank
do
you.
that then? Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Public comment is,
We have no speakers.
No
There are no
speakers.
There is
Oh,
no
no
public
speakers.
No
comment.
speakers.
okay. So we discussed it. No action needs to be taken.
Well, I think we should
Well-
invite the person who has the problem back to
Yeah.
visit with us.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. But that would be a subsequent,
I will make sure that we extend the invitation, but the invitation was set for the dates when the concerned resident had availability and wasn't able to attend.
Did the resident indicate to you that he would not be able to be here this evening? Did you have an understanding with him with regard to his attendance?
Not to me, I believe he,
The
to,
the resident did notify me he's out of the country and he would be getting back into country after the start of our council meeting. He originally had thought he would be here.
Okay,
For some reason, had to reschedule his flight.
so it seems to me he needs his chance that he was not able to be here. And therefore, I would be inclined to say, the invitation is open. If he wants to speak to us, we'd be pleased to do so to continue the agreement that we have. That clear?
that sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Why don't we proceed with that?
the
then?
answer is yes.
Okay. We'll go to item number 2. Council discussion and appointment of one citizen to fill the vacancy on the planning commission. And we had one application. Mr. Clayton Miller. Is Mr. Miller here? Would you tell us why you'd like to be on the commission and tell us why you need to be on it?
Yeah. Evening, everyone. My name's Clayton. I live over on just over on Military Road. Kind of grew up out here my entire life, Arizona native, passion for the desert. But I don't know, qualifications, I suppose. I worked for an architecture firm for a couple of years doing draftsman details, everything, so good understanding of, building processes. And then for the past 10 years, I've been a registered licensed landscape architect here. So I do everything from like residential, parks, multifamily, do get into some of the planning and like larger scale planned community type of stuff like that. So definitely like a background in planning and, kind of a good understanding of all that. So really just looking to help out and, be here. And I think that's probably the heart of it, but.
Any questions?
Yes,
from the,
Mr. Mayor.
council? Mr. Monachino.
Mr. Miller, I don't remember you attending very many sessions of the council or the planning commission. What motivates you now to come forward?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I did apply, I guess last year. So I have been to one of your guys' meetings here. But just, I guess I haven't,
Any other questions?
yeah. I haven't been around. I don't know.
And my question was, haven't we seen you before? So
Yeah.
this is the second
Yes.
time you've applied.
Yeah,
Thank you
right,
for
right.
coming forward.
This-
Councilmember Morris.
As a matter of fact, I've listed, I've sent the town staff a whole listing of questions that for a new questionnaire on planning commissioners. And I'm going to just read a few off to you. Just
Yeah, of course.
one word answers are perfect.
Okay.
So you've been in Cave Creek for a long time, 10 years, you said, I think.
No, my wife and I just built our house over our military. So we've been here for 3 years. But I grew up just on about Joe Max and Pima
Okay.
since I was a little kid. So,
Are you a Cave Creek voter?
yeah.
Okay. Are you on any a member of any organizations in town? Museum, rodeo,
Nope.
et cetera? You went through your work experience, your expertise. We've already asked you about how many commission meetings you attend in person. Did you weigh in on the general plan?
No.
Okay. Is there anything about the general plan that you either particularly agree with or don't agree with?
To be quite honest with you, I haven't seen it.
What is your vision for residential areas and business areas in town?
As far as like in the future of, development.
Yeah,
and
what do you
how it
think of the
goes,
town
or-
right now? And
Yeah.
do you hate it and want to change it, or do you love it and didn't want anything
No,
to
no,
not
I
anything to
I
change?
think, what we've got going as far as like a town core currently, I think is great. I think whether it's been intentionally or through codes or whatnot, but, keeping the major development down over there on Carefree Highway, I think is successful, and, how the town is developing currently is nice. I think I'd just be more on the trying to, and not preserve everything, of course, there's growth and everything like that, but I think just to continue on the same road of what's been going on with it, at least how I've been seeing it. With the limited knowledge of not seeing the future plan currently, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for our applicant. Mr. Miller, thank you for being here. My question, I'll get to the heart of it. The bulk of requests, or many requests on the Plan Commission, is for rezoning of properties. So my question is, how do you look at the property rights that are on that property as compared to residents not wanting to see that property rezoned or developed at all? I guess my question is, do you have the constitution to hear from residents who are not in agreement? And can you look at that property and, to be fair and impartial, look at it as it relates to the property rights existing on it, negative comments from the neighborhood versus the law, be it our local ordinances, be it state, or be it national, i.e. US Supreme Court, which a lot of these zoning cases come down to. So how do you view all of that?
Yeah, it's a similar, I think you asked me a similar question last time with, regards to, being able to, make a decision, that's upsetting to other people, I suppose, and being able to stand by it. And even if you don't agree with it, I suppose. But you already kind of said it. I mean, it's property rights. I mean, to some degree, it's, you've got a property owner with, his land, and he's got rights to it. There's also goals of the town, with zoning and everything else. So I think that's a really tough one, but like you said already, it's, you got to be fair and judicial about it. But I'd like to say, I think I could, be able to do that and go down the middle with it.
Thank you.
Councilmember McGuire.
Are you under the age of 65?
I'm probably the youngest in the room. I think.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I like that.
It's about time.
Councilmember.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
I was wondering if Luke could give us a recommendation, or Steve Breckner, who's a member of the Plan Commission, who's in the audience. Do you know Clayton, and would you recommend him? Sure.
Yes, I do know Clayton. Oops, sorry. Good evening. I do know Clayton. He's here because I nudged. And I think he has the right mindset, the right knowledge of land use that can make a valuable contribution to the town. My experience with him is that he loves our way of life, wants to preserve it, enjoys the rural lifestyle. You don't see a lot of young people coming up here and building a home and establishing roots like he is. And to me, that says something, and enough where I was a little bit of a badger. And so I'm happy he's here, and I hope you guys see to appoint him.
So you would be willing to be a mentor?
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you.
I wouldn't leave him hanging like that. Yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you. Luke?
Yeah, members of council, I just really got to know Clayton through his development of his property, through the building permit application process and the construction of his home. Understand that he has a landscape background that would really, staff could really use and leverage. I mean, just from a selfish standpoint, it would be much easier to hand him landscape plans once in a while and say, hey, are we sure we're getting checking all the boxes on these? And he's got the ability to do that. Right now we use an arborist that we consult with to do that. So it'd probably be better in the long term to have someone kind of more in-house from that planning commission. And to the point of him not attending meetings, he's a young guy, he's a full-time, he runs his own business, he's working, he's hustling. So yeah, I can tell you that when I was in my 20s and 30s, I didn't want to be, well, I'm in my 40s, I still don't want to be here. So,
So what you're saying, Mr. Councilman, is that he has a life.
he does
Unlike
like yes.
some of us.
And then the backside of the selfish coin is next year we'll be doing our town core plan, and he's a resident of the town core. So I would really be interested to see what his take on the town core is moving forward for the town. So that's.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council?
I have a question of Council Member Royer.
Yes, sir.
The last time we were filling a vacancy, we only received one applicant. And you were of the opinion and made, whether it be a motion or whatever, that we should have multiple applicants to choose from. And here we are again with just one. I'm not asking you to say how you're going to vote, but is just having one, I'll say, qualified applicant, would that pass muster with you?
I don't recall that I went on the record as saying that. So I'm not quite sure why you're asking me that question.
That was my recollection,
Oh,
and I
well.
could be wrong too, but
I think Mr. Miller is a fine applicant, and he comes highly recommended.
Mhm.
And I think that we would be lucky to have him. So with that, I would move forward with his application.
Vice Mayor, motion?
No, we have an opportunity for public comment.
There is no one wishing to speak.
No. Okay, then it is probably time for a motion.
I'll do it. Motion to appoint Clayton Miller to fill the vacancy on the Planning Commission with a term expiring December 31st, 2023.
second.
Okay, we'll do this. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Miller.
Welcome to the
Thank
plan.
you,
Welcome
sir.
to the Planning
Welcome.
Commission.
Appreciate it.
No turning back now.
And thank you for your comments. And yours too, Luke. Okay, we're going on to item number 3. Council discussion and possible approval of a one-time 6-month extension period of case preliminary plat P 2101 Hidden Canyon and exception request E 2101 through E 2105. You put it on the agenda.
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor Smith, members of council. As you stated, this is a request of the applicant of a one-time 6-month extension that may be granted by the town council. It's outlined in our subdivision ordinance process. Once a preliminary plat is approved, the date of approval of this one was November 1st of last year. They must submit a final plat application within 1 calendar year or within one year of that approval. As we started to get into summer, we started to reach out to the applicant to see where they were in preparation of their final plat. And from their side, they were not going to be able to meet the November 1st deadline to get it submitted. So it was at that time that they were notified that, your preliminary plat expires after 1 year unless you submit an application to request an extension, which is why they're here tonight. One thing I did want to cover, in their memo to the town, they cite market conditions and I believe it's, find the exact wordage here, concerning water availability with the town of Cave Creek. That second point, the first point I can speak to a little bit, market conditions, the interest rates, as we all know, have kind of been adjusting and doing their thing. And there's been a lot of concern on behalf of developers, even going back to development along Carefree Highway, commercial developers being very uneasy about the market rates or the interest rates. As far as water, I don't know of anything specifically, but I do know in talking with Sean Cruz-Weisner, our utilities director, that they are working with the applicant and ADWR to revise their certificate of assured water supply. As you may remember, the application or the land is entitled for much more water or for more lots than what they ultimately provided in their preliminary plat. So that is one consideration that Sean is working on with both the applicant and ADWR, is to get that certificated, to get a new certificate issued for the 58 lots that the preliminary plat, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. 48 lots. That helped me. Still in Benson. And then also, I would suspect that they've been monitoring all the town code requirements regarding water that the town has been considering this last year, and also with our drought management plan and other things that are going to be coming online soon. So that might be part of why that water availability with the town of Cave Creek statement was put in their narrative. But with that, I'll answer any questions. I brought some of my notes from the original preliminary plat and exception request, so I can speak to those. Otherwise, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I have a question.
Yes.
This is a one-time opportunity for an extension of 6 months.
Yes.
If their process isn't completed, they don't make a deal with someone and the time runs out, what is the status of the property at that time?
The property goes back to being 76 acres consisting of 2 parcels, one being R18 and one being R35, and they start the process to subdivide that all over again. And in the case with this land, it would be, I believe, their 4th, maybe 5th run at it.
Okay, so this is a one-time opportunity.
This is it. Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, wait a minute. I saw motion down here first.
I beg your pardon.
It's good to go verbal.
I know it's standard for you to go first, but
Could you please give us the number of lots that would be entitled under the present zoning as opposed to, and the number of lots that they anticipate having in Hidden Canyon?
Councilmember McGuire, the preliminary plat was approved for 48 lots.
48,
A
okay.
final plat could come in with 48 lots or less and be processed and approved and entitled at 48. If they wanted to increase the amount of lots, they would have to come in with a new preliminary plat and go through all of that over again. The certificated water allotment that they're entitled to would allow 63 lots. And the zoning, and it's been some time since we did the numbers, but we're in excess of 100 lots based on the acres and the underlying zoning that would be allowed.
Yep.
So to answer that question, it's kind of a moving target. Could they get water in excess to support 100 plus lots? Sure. But that would probably be very expensive.
Thank you. I think that response is well given. Thank you.
Councilmember Morris.
Would you refresh my memory? As I recall, there's a couple of key benefits for the town regarding development on the ridge tops and the amount of open space. Would you refresh us on that?
Yes, Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Morris, the preliminary plat, so it's 76 acres total. The applicant wishes to dedicate 27 acres of open space to the town. So that would be completely undeveloped. And those are really the ridge lines around the development that would be preserved. They're also improving and dedicating public trails throughout the subdivision that tie into Gojon and the trail that goes through Canyon Ridge Estates. You know, all those, it's actually a really nice linkage from Rancho Manana down south of Town Hall here. And they're basically, once they finish with the ADWR process and revise their cause, that's 15 lots that get put back into our water bank. So those, from staff's point of view, and in working on this, we were processing a preliminary plat for this when I first started with the town in 2006. And that development plan and those plats, if you were to hold them side by side, this is just speaking frankly, a much better deal for the town as far as development. The previous ownership groups were of the mind that they wish to develop every square inch of that site that they could. I think this applicant has shown that they're much more willing to work with the town and preserve as much as they can. And even the exception requests were born out of that. Why extend all these roads and why extend all of these things and create more disturbance and more development when a few adjustments in the subdivision ordinance would allow for a better development for everyone. I believe that's.
Thank you.
Councilmember Silva.
Mr. Kautzman, I just want you to acknowledge or tell me if I'm right or wrong that this property obtained the zoning on it prior to the town's incorporation in 1986, correct?
That is correct. I'm having deja vu because you asked this in November of last year.
Oh, I know I did, but I want that point to come out again. And I also want the point to come out that in doing so, when the town incorporated and annexed the property in 1986, this was a parcel that was taken in and it's part of our town. And basically they have property rights. They have the rights right now to build 63 lots with water, or as many as 100 per zoning, should they be able to get that. So the 48 lots is considerably less than that. And am I also correct in my recollection that in the county, there was no requirement for them to hook up to any trails that would be in the area, nor dedicate 1 acre, let alone 27 acres of permanent open space?
That's
A simple yes will.
well, to that point, what if this land were to have developed 30, 40 years ago prior to the town's incorporation, it would be essentially what we have across the street. It's Surrey, Carriage, Skyline, that development is the same exact zoning that backs right up into Black Mountain and goes up to Black Mountain. Those were all platted under that same zoning using those same rules that county had prior to the town's incorporation. So there's no open space over there. There's no trails over there. The streets are not to our standards. There are many inadequacies with what was done in county prior to the town's incorporation than what we were talking about with this development. So thank you for bringing that up.
So 11 months ago, the council approved the preliminary plat, I stand corrected. And as you said, they had 1 year to present a final, an application with a set of documents that I call a final plat of subdivision, correct?
Correct.
So my question to you is, Perhaps if there's anyone here from representing the applicant, they could address this. Maybe you could. That year is expiring in a month, November 1st, I believe you said. For them then to keep that parcel alive with what we approved 11 months ago, they'd have to submit their application, which is a simple matter, pay the fee, but more importantly, have a final set of documents, final set of engineering. And my question to you is, would 6 months be of sufficient time for an engineering firm? I believe they're using Cohen Van Loo out of Phoenix to do that.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Because if they have the application and without the attachments, it's not valid.
It's not an application at that point. No.
Okay.
Councilmember Royer.
Once again, I would like to call on our Planning Commission member, Steve Breckner. Could you come to the podium? I wasn't able to vote on this issue for a conflict of interest. Was that the right term? Or was it just it was a conflict? Yes.
Yeah.
So I would like you to recall for us what the process was and how in-depth it was among the planning commissioners to approve this proposal, and why you think, if you do, it would be a good idea to give them 6 additional months per the subdivision ordinance, because it is allowable under that ordinance.
Sure. Yeah, I remember this pretty well. It was, the community was involved. I recall there was a petition circulating at the time by.
Could you speak louder?
I recall there was a petition circulating by, and being joined by a variety of residents in opposition to it. You know, at the time I was confused as to why, because I took a deep look into this application. There was a number of exceptions that were requested, and with each one of them, I saw an obvious rationale behind them. They were causing less disturbance. They were benefiting the town. There was a large amount of land that was developable, capable of being developed, that the applicant was essentially donating to the town as open space. So I saw this as a fabulous deal. And by my calculations, I think I came up to 112 lots per the zoning. I could be wrong, but it's a lot. Granted, the water supply that they already had was for 63. They could acquire more, and they could jam down a development with more homes similar, to across the street. That would be nowhere near what was being proposed. So I viewed it as something very much in concert with our general plan, the goals of the town. I thought it was a great deal. As far as them seeking an extension, solely based on how good I think of a deal this particular plat is for the town, is worthy of granting it, even if they don't ultimately meet the 6-month deadline. Okay, we're back to the drawing board. Hopefully we don't end up with something worse down the road. But I see only a win by granting the extension. As far as the rationale behind market conditions, being in the industry myself, it's very understandable. Interest rates have really, not just interest rates, but supply chain issues have caused a number of inflationary impacts on building. And developers have to consider, does this pencil out? Are we going to be able to build? Are people going to be able to afford these properties? These are substantial impacts. And what I have been seeing is that interest rates have caused a decline in building. I understand lumber prices are now down to pre-COVID levels. We may find ourselves in a position where builders can build at more reasonable prices that might fit in better with interest rates. And so I've seen a lot of developers kind of sit on the sidelines. They're worried about what's going on. So I can understand why this developer hasn't really jumped in, but I see no problem in giving them extra time, considering the deal for the town.
So essentially, the biggest benefit for the town, what the town gets is a reduced risk that it could be worse if we do not approve the extension.
In many facets. Is this the best possible outcome for the town? Maybe not. I mean, wouldn't it be great if there was a developer that came in and said, I'll build one home on 76, it's not likely to happen in my opinion, but considering what this is vis-a-vis what the landowner is entitled to, not just from the standpoint of what they could develop and disturb on that hillside, but also from a water standpoint, the town's already on the hook for 63 lots and we've got 48. That's 17 more lots that we can bank that water. I see that as a win for the town just on a water standpoint. But from the open space, the trails, they agreed to not only build and maintain the road as a private road, but with an overlay for a public easement. So it's basically a public road where the town doesn't have to maintain it. Pretty awesome. They had flag lots. There was a rationale. It's better than a cul-de-sac. You're now ripping up the mountain more. There was reasons behind all of it. It all made sense. Now, not everybody agrees with me, but it was real obvious to me. So,
What was the plan commission vote?
I believe it was, one planning commissioner did not vote, leaving 6, and I believe it was 5-1 with Commissioner Anderson voting no, liking it, but saying it was close, but not good enough.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate your comments. One last question, not for Mr. Sims. I'm understanding that this is allowable legally under our subdivision ordinance.
Yes, ma'am.
So there was no
Perfectly legal.
question that we're, approving any kind of a variance for them for no reason.
You're approving, in light of COVID, I've had a number of my jurisdictions have developers with problems. What they've said is we need another 6 months. You have every right to grant the other 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember McGuire.
This is a question for council. There are people in Cave Creek that don't want more development. And in general, I agree with them. How could we prevent development of this parcel of land?
Well, the questions that you were asking the candidate for the planning and zone or the commission answers that question. In America, property owners have rights to their property. You and the commission have to balance those rights against their neighbors' concerns. And there's a variety of procedures with notices and protests and supermajority voting to protect the rights of the neighbors. But at the end of the day, the American Constitution protects property rights. And if I have a piece of property and it's been zoned a certain area, I have the right to develop it. And unlike a legislative act, a plat is an administrative act. And if they meet the requirements, they could build 63 lots. And so what they've done is they've limited what they've said they've been willing to do. And so this is the classic example of one of the most difficult issues you have as a council, is letting the commission take the first cut and you take the second cut as to these issues. I know some there are laws against moratorium. You have to jump through tons of hoops if you're going to absolutely impose a moratorium. But that's not what you're suggesting. But
No.
what they're suggesting is they are volitionally willing to limit the development to give you the benefits that Luke described, benefits they do not necessarily have to give you. I mean, if this were zoning, there would be a different question. This isn't zoning. This is a plat. And if they meet the requirements, they can develop.
I think we have the ability, we could go in and we could buy all of that land.
That would have been my answer. Much
Right.
shorter response.
Yeah, much shorter response. How much would it cost? Do you have any idea, Luke, how much it would cost the town if we went in and we bought the land so that it became permanent open space? How many
Over 4
Yeah.
million.
order of magnitude? How much would that land be worth?
Just based on current appraisals that I've seen for various parcels of land in and around town, I know it wouldn't be as good a deal as we're getting on another area. I would say several million,
Several million.
based on its proximity to town services and just the land itself.
Yeah, several often means three. So you're saying, 3 million.
And probably Commissioner Breckner could.
Yeah,
May I
please.
answer your question?
Yes, please. As one who has taken part in development, please do.
I would say between 5.0 to 6.3 million. You have to look at it not at the 48 lots, but of the 63, which have water.
Steve?
Vice Mayor, can I respond to?
Before we get much further in this, I think we've gotten off topic. There's exactly one question here. That question is, will the council grant an extension of 6 months? Or will the council say no to an extension of 6 months? Well, the value of the property and a whole bunch of other questions are, to my thinking, irrelevant at this time. We've got one issue. And those are not going to have an effect on or shouldn't, from my point of view, have an effect on the decision-making relative to whether we say yay or nay to an extension. Now, are there any other?
To your point, if I may ask Mr. Councilman, if this is approved tonight, or if it is not approved. So if it's not approved, that's set. If it is approved, they've got 6 months from November 1st. What happens in either of my two examples that they do not submit their application with their final engineering, the final plat? What would they have to do if they wanted to come back in a year or so and start the process again?
That is precisely what they would have to do, is
Yeah.
come back and start at square one from the preliminary plat, from the subdivision ordinance, which begins with the pre-application preliminary plat.
And it would have to go to the planning commission?
Yes, sir.
There'd be public hearings, just like there was in this case.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, any other relevant questions? Okay, we'll go to public comment. And since I'm sitting in for the mayor, there were two submissions, and one is from Jim Himmis, a neighbor of mine, who has a comment. I oppose. Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
You read that very well.
He opposes. The second is from Gary Rector, who lives on Mesquite Road. And his comment is, I urge you to vote against extending the deadline for the Hidden Canyon project. The initial request required too many general plan and subdivision ordinance waivers. The applicant's current situation shows how poorly it was conceived. The town should not grant exception requests E21-01 through E21-05 of P-21-01. We should seize the opportunity to stop this ill-conceived plan. The applicant had a fair chance, but that should now end in fairness at the end of the rest of the town's citizens. Please forbid another disaster like Galloway Ridge by allowing Hidden Canyon to continue as is. Those are the comments that had been requested to be included in the public comments. Do we have public who want to comment on this?
We do. We have one, Stephen Bruckner.
You guys probably know how I feel, but I felt, all too often people speak up against, and I thought I would speak up for. And so I submitted a comment card in favor of granting this extension request. I think I fear what might happen if we either turn it down or the applicant doesn't proceed within 6 months, what might come of this land at some point down the road. And I fear of something far worse, as well as public turmoil surrounding it. So I'm very much in favor of granting the extension. And in terms of value, my estimate would have been around 15 million.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you,
Any
Mr.
questions?
President.
May I ask
Not that we
Commissioner,
can consider
question,
that.
question of the
I
commissioner?
thought you asked that. So.
Yeah, sure.
Commissioner.
Yeah.
At the hearing, there was a petition
Yes.
signed by 155 folks who opposed
Yes.
the measure. What was the discussion, if any, on the commission? This was not just a couple of folks coming in, with 155. How did the commission deal with that?
I think you were there. I think you might have been one of the 155.
I was,
Um,
but this is for the record.
Yeah, like any other application, I can't speak for what was going on in the minds of all the other commissioners, but there was extensive discussion by the commission, as well as extensive work and thought put in, at least by myself. I walked the land. I did a whole lot, aside from my background, that aided me in that. And I reviewed and listened to the public comment while at the meeting. I felt that it was an unusual circumstance for me, because I felt what the public wanted was completely in concert with what the applicant was putting forth. So it was baffling to me, to be honest with you. I couldn't understand why, there were so many people opposed to this, other than perhaps they were receiving the wrong information by someone who didn't understand it. I didn't know. It was confusing to me. But there was extensive discussion and consideration and time put forth, not just by myself, but by other commissioners as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one last question.
I have another member of the
Oh.
public. Sorry. George Brugenthes.
Thank you for allowing me to be a late comment here, but I'm a 12-year resident in Cave Creek, and I oppose this sanction of this because it doesn't reflect what Cave Creek is. I've seen this development, and the one on Schoolhouse Road. It's just awful. It's just awful. And I don't know what this would be, but it's a beautiful piece of property. And then to develop with housing and trails and that, it just doesn't make any sense. So I support the 155 people that voted against this. So I think that the council here really needs to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I make a statement?
Well, are there any other?
No
public?
additional speakers.
There are no other public. Okay, then I guess
Okay, let's
Motion.
do the motion.
there should be a motion.
Yeah.
And then we can do a little
Except that I have a
discussion.
legal question.
Would you like to make the motion?
Oh, okay.
Did you
Yeah, no, I'll find it. I'll find it. Hold on. Hold on. Here it is. Motion to approve a one-time 6-month extension period of case preliminary plat P-21-01 Hidden Canyon and exception requests E-21-01 through E-21-05.
Second. I hear a second. Second from Mr. McGuire. Okay, I'm gonna start off with some comment. This is not my vote. This is a comment. A lot has been made about 155 people signing a petition. I was here when 110, 120 bicyclists came in and said, you have to do those bicycle lines up through the town. And I thought that the council at that time was swayed by 120 people. I don't know if what was decided at that meeting was what the people of Cave Creek really wanted. Because the job was handed over to ADOT, and ADOT did what ADOT does. In this case, got 155 people who signed a petition against it. That's 5,000 people who didn't. That's a lot of people who did not jump on the bandwagon against the Hidden Canyon. One other quick thing is I go down Cave Creek Road going into town, which I do quite often. I look over to the right. This is going north. And what do I see? I see residences going up the side of the mountain to a certain point. And I say to myself, what we're talking about with Hidden Canyon is essentially the same thing over, only even more hidden. So it's not that big a difference. It's something that fits into Cave Creek. It also fits into the general plan. The general plan is not an ironclad legal document that says you can't do this, you must do that. It is a document that allows for interpretation, understanding of what the town really needs. And there's one other thing, and that is anybody who has read the zoning ordinances, probably has seen the little statement in there that says the council may waive these requirements. And then it essentially goes on to say, if they deem it to be in the best interest of the town. Now, I believe that's what the council did the last time around when the decision made. All this is just a continuation, allowing the developer another 6 months to try to get their act in order and to be able to move forward. And it doesn't change anything. It's just a yes or no. And as Mr. Kosman has said, if this developer fails to be able to move ahead, we're thrown back into a situation which he and I actually dealt with years ago, and he mentioned it, where there were what I considered to be about 110 ticky-tacky little houses that were going to be put on the side of that hill. And the council or the commission at that time recommended against it. I was on that commission and I voted against it because I thought that that would be the kind of thing that would really be damaging to the town of Cave Creek. This project, if it gets off the ground, will, I think, be an enhancement to the town of Cave Creek. And I've said my bit. Mr. McGuire.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity recently to speak to a couple of citizens who had the foresight to contact me. And that's a really good way to handle it. And the gentleman that spoke tonight, I respect your opinion. If we had the chance to sit down and have a talk about this, then I'd have a better idea of what you want. You'd have a better idea of what I know. But of those people that signed the petition, they have done so much better if they had contacted us and gotten into a discussion with us before the meeting. Some of them, frankly, I think signed that petition thinking we didn't have to develop that piece of property. Well, as I've said, as Luke said, yeah, we could buy it for whether it be 3 million or $15 million. That's an option. But that's something that we need to discuss so that you have you know what we know what you know, and we can do that so much better if people in the community contact us. People have said to me, oh, people must call you up all the time, Tom, and bother you. Hell no, I don't have enough people that contact me. But those that do, we can engage in a conversation and come to agreement. And that's what I'm finding with the individuals who are opposed to this, with whom I have talked. I get a better idea of what they want and they understand the situation much better. So I'm recommending that if you have opposition, anyone, to what we're doing, please contact us before the meeting and let's have that discussion so that we better understand each other's point of view. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mhm. Yes,
Oh, yes, okay.
couple of thoughts here. The project began with a expectation completing it. Their business model was, we'll invest and we'll build some homes, lots, whatever. And what they did was put up, in my view, risk capital. It's the foundation of America. It's been that way for 200 years. Your business model flies, your business model does not fly. That's, you put up and you take that risk. So now we have a situation here where let's extend it. I have two thoughts in mind. One, it's because of the economy and it's difficult to market this product. On the other hand, if the request is being made because they are still working with the town on these water issues and a drought management concern, working with ADWR, they are not the swiftest people on the planet. And if this is causing the request for the extension, that's a completely different matter. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Any other comments? Okay, I guess we're ready for a vote. All those in favor?
It's as if
what?
it's not financial, is it? Okay.
Yep, well, it is financial if,
If it's financial, then
This
we
is
have to
not
poll.
financial.
It's not
It's not
financial.
good.
This is not
Okay.
financial. So we can do it with a up and down voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
of this
Aye.
motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
no.
Mr. Vice Mayor, in that case, under the new open meeting law, you need to take a roll call vote so the clerk can identify who voted yes and who voted.
Okay, why don't we do a roll call vote then? That's a good suggestion.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember Monachino,
I don't have enough information. No.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Councilmember Royer,
No.
Vice Mayor Smith.
Yes. Therefore, by a vote of 4-2, the motion passes. Okay, we'll go on to number 4. And now this is what I like, a nice long lead into it. Case Z 2201. Vickers. Council discussion and possible approval of second reading of ordinance 2022-02, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the town of Cave Creek, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending the official town of Cave Creek zoning map by changing the underlying zone of a parcel totaling approximately 2.5 acres, parcel 211-47-043C, from a desert rural residential DR 89 zone to a commercial buffer CB zone. Okay, planning director again.
Acting Mayor Smith, thank you for that introduction. Members of council, this staff report will be briefer than you reading the introduction to that. This is second reading of ordinance 2022-02 for case Z 2201 Vickers zone change request. This is one parcel totaling approximately 2.5 acres. The existing parcel is zone DR 89. The applicant is requesting a zone change to commercial buffer, which is in line with the Carefree Highway specific area plan that was adopted by resolution some years ago. Stephen Perales, planner for the town, presented the first reading to the town. Council gave first reading by unanimous vote 7-0. I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Are there any questions? There are no questions. Let's see. I guess we got a public hearing. Has anybody asked us to comment?
We have no comments.
None?
None.
Okay. Who would like to do a motion? I already read
Right.
it once, so I'm not going to do it again.
Vice Mayor, we have the gentleman,
That's it.
we have just the gentleman that submitted comment
Oh.
online.
Do I have something here?
Mr. Vice Mayor, you might want to turn your microphone on.
I made the mistake of turning it off. Let's see. Okay, I do have a comment. This is a comment. Wait a minute. From Jim Himmis again. Jim Himmis says, I oppose. Okay. We have a motion.
I'll make the motion. Motion to approve second reading of ordinance number 2022-02, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the town of Cave Creek, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending the official town of Cave Creek zoning map by changing the underlying zone of a parcel totaling approximately 2.5 acres, parcel number 211-47-043C from a desert rural residential DR 89 zone to a commercial buffer CB zone.
A second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Does this one need a roll call or is it?
No, the only reason, Mr. Vice Mayor, the only reason is typically you're supposed to have a roll call on every vote. But what we've done is when it's unanimous, the clerk notes that there was unanimous vote, everybody voted yes.
Okay,
The minute we find out that there's one no vote, you have to do a roll call.
okay, sounds good. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? By a vote of 6-0, the motion passes. Anyone thinking of adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Aye.